Shut up! Stop talking. Just go the hell away. All the world needs is me. I got my values. So you can keep yours, alright? I don't get people. Never have, never will.
Oh my god, I can't believe I'm about to talk about TWEWY so soon. I figured it would be a while before I got to the topic, but considering the fact I've already made videos on half the Kingdom Hearts and Sonic series respectively, and I was actively yearning to replay the game, I figured why not. It's been a hot minute since my last playthrough, and I'm back on my JRPG kick. Let's talk about TWEWY for a bit. Or for those who are not in the know, The World Ends With You. I first played The World Ends With You in my junior year of high school. I had known about the game for a long time since I was a much younger kid. The main theme calling was always in my music playlist, and I would tell myself I had to play the game for myself at some point. I could have emulated it at any time, but I waited so long on it that the game got a Final Mix remaster on Nintendo Switch, and despite having peaked right in front of my eyes, I never bought it, or asked for it as a birthday gift or Christmas gift. It just remained something in my gaming backlog until one day in my aforementioned junior year of high school, I asked the homie Silax if I could borrow the game off him and finally played it for myself, cause I was still a broke high school kid. He agreed and I was finally immersed in the world of TWEWY, and I loved the game so much that I asked him if I could also borrow the sequel and played that too and loved it just as much, if not more than the first game. Today though, I will be focusing only on the first title. I love Neo: The World Ends With You, and it's one of my favorite JRPGs, and it builds off this game in amazing ways, but it already took me so long to make this video, and I just want to move back into Sonic during the holidays, so I'm gonna only talk about the original. For this video, I'm playing the Final Mix Switch re-release. I have played a fair amount in the original, and for reasons I'll get into later, I prefer the Switch version. Also, once again, borrowing the game off of Silax, cause some things never change, we still broke. Thank you, buddy. So a small piece of development background because I found it interesting. TWEWY was developed by the Kingdom Hearts team with some input from Jupiter, the guys who worked on the GBA version of Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories. Apparently this game was being worked on during development of Kingdom Hearts 2, which around this time Nintendo revealed the OG Nintendo DS, and Square requested the team put their project onto the new handheld. The creative team for TWEWY consisted of Tatsuya Kondo as director, who prior worked on a number of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy projects, from Final Fantasy IX to Kingdom Hearts 3 as animation director or supervisor, depending on the project. Co-directing TWEWY was Tomohiro Hasegawa, who was the lead artist on Kingdom Hearts 2, with Takeshi Arakawa taking the role of plan director, who also worked on Final Fantasy IX and 10 as a texture artist. And of course, Tetsuya Nomura was taking the role of creative producer and character designer. And boy, did he make some fire designs for this game's characters, but one thing at a time. Together, the team got to sample the DS at the Touch DS event in November of 2004, and immediately the team started brainstorming and bouncing around ideas. They wanted to make a game that could only be played on the DS and wanted to heavily focus on the touchscreen, which spiraled into them coming up with the game's dual screen battle system, where one character fights on the top screen and another fights on the bottom with the touchscreen, and they stuck to their guns on this idea because that is exactly how this game is played on the DS in the final release. The gameplay for TWEWY is one of the most interesting things about it. In game, you fight monsters called Noise using pins that grant you access to powers called Sights, and these can be pretty much anything from shooting energy rounds from your hands to using telekinesis to bash monsters' heads in with a fucking car. But to use these abilities, you have to tap, swipe, drag, or flick the touchscreen in the DS version in various ways depending on what pins you have equipped. You don't fight alone either, your partner is on the top screen fighting and you control them with the D-pad. I could have played the whole game like this, but I figured it'd be easier to go with the Switch version, as it translated the stylus controls over pretty well, and had a creative solution for how to fight with your partner. Here on Switch, you control a cursor with the gyroscope in the Joy-Con that you can recalibrate by hitting the Y button to center it. When you hold the A button, you can draw your swipes and hold objects like cars as you will on the DS, and tapping the A button when the cursor is in an empty space lets you shoot your energy rounds if you have those sight types equipped. And now, to attack with your partner, the game gives them each unique inputs like tapping their enemies directly when partnered with Shiki, or swiping down on them with Drop Shield. The gameplay, no matter the version you pick, may take some getting used to, and for sure can get clunky to use at times, but it's worth putting up with in my opinion to experience one of the most memorable stories I've experienced in this genre. Upon starting a new game, you're quickly introduced to our main protagonist, Neku Sakuraba. an emotionally closed-off teenager who finds himself waking up in the middle of Shibuya's Scramble Crossing, now able to hear a bunch of voices in his head and in possession of a mysterious pen. Very quickly, Neku is attacked by noise and makes a run for it, rightfully so as the noise are causing people around him to vanish. After making it to the Ochiko statue, Neku bumps into another girl named Shiki, and the two of them form a pack allowing him to fight the noise directly. After clearing them out and dealing with Neku's antisocial tendencies, Shiki explains to him that the two of them are players in what's known as the Reaper's game, and that pen Neku woke up with is his player's pen. They need to survive a whole week to win, and every day they get mission mails sent to their phones detailing what tasks they need to complete that day. A timer is etched onto their hands that constantly ticks downwards, and if it reaches 0 or they fail, they face erasure, which essentially means they don't exist anymore. The voices in their head come from gaining an ability upon entering the game to scam people and hear their thoughts. Their mission today is to reach the 104 building, which the duo do with ease. This is where the game drops combat tutorials, getting used to the controls and fighting with your partner. They introduce the cross combo mechanic, where if you and your partner attack noise at the same time, you build up your sync meter that once full allows you to perform a more powerful team attack that damages every noise on the screen after you play a minigame that changes depending on your partner. Cross combos are super satisfying to perform, and depending on your pin setup, super easy to do as well. After Neku and Shiki complete the first mission, they conk out and day 2 officially starts with a new mission in tow. The actual missions themselves aren't really the main point of the game. The time limit the characters get don't actually come into play during actual gameplay. Even when the characters want to rush to do something, you don't actually have to speedrun your way to the next mission objective. The missions are more so used to explore the characters themselves given the situation they're placed in. As you work towards your objectives, you get to learn more about Neku, Shiki, and later your other partners, as well as how the Reaper's game itself actually works, like finding out that these characters are actually dead, and they're playing the Reaper's game for another shot at life, and that there's an entry fee to get into the Reaper's game, which is what you value most. Neku starts out as cold, reserved, and distrusting, which reflects in his design too, with him always wearing his headphones and not having the most vibrant color palette. These traits doesn't bode well, especially when the game hinges on how well you trust your partner, with Shiki knowing this, tries her best to get closer to Neku initially with no avail, but as the week continues and the duo clears more missions and meet more players, Neku, albeit very slowly, drops his guard. There's also 2 other players who show up named Beat and Rhyme. They bounce off each other pretty well, Beat being bold and outgoing while not being the sharpest tool in the shed, and Rhyme being more reserved and calculated, which keeps Beat from jumping to the wrong conclusions. Their dynamic is sweet to watch, especially as you learn more about them as the game continues. There's a lot of interesting themes here about human connection, living in the moment, and being honest with each other, which begins to widen Neku's perspective about people, which in turn allows him to begin to trust Shiki more and act less prickly. There's a moment where a Reaper named Mizuki shows up and tries to trick Neku into killing Shiki, saying that doing so will let him out of the game early, and you don't immediately get to see the aftermath as the game cuts to the next day, with Neku waking up alone, not remembering specifically what occurred, leading him to believe he actually went through with it, and you can tell he feels bad about it, which serves to humanize him a little bit, because up until this point, Neku kinda acts like a dickhead. A lovable dickhead, but still one that pushes people away. Turns out though, Shiki is alive and a flashback occurs showing what actually happened. Turns out this guy named Hanakoma intervened, as he's sort of like a ref for the Reaper's game, and he stops Suzuki because players are only allowed to get 1 mission per day, and making it erase your partner is against the rules. Hanakoma is the GOAT. He gives you a bunch of exposition, including unnecessary information about himself. He scolds Neku about not trusting his partner, which leads to him opening up about how he lost his memory since becoming a player in the Reaper's game, which sorta kinda better explains his angsty nature up until now. And Hanakuma gives another interesting tidbit that the Reaper's game takes place in the Yuji of Shibuya, or the Underground, while the actual Shibuya where the real people are is the RG, or Real Ground. They play with this concept quite a bit as the game goes on, like how in one of the missions, people in the RG will make their decisions off the game of Reaper Creeper, but since they can't see you, you're allowed to manipulate the coin on the paper to goad them into making decisions that may help you in your current mission objective. It's really cool the way they balance solving the mission objectives through interacting with people in the RG and reading your mission mail so you can brainstorm with your partner on what to do. They really send you all over Shibuya and you get very familiar with the place as the game goes on. I also really like what they do with Shiki's character, where in the RG she used to make clothes, including the one she has on right now. She has a really fine eye for it, getting annoyed at a loose button on Neku's outfit and immediately fixing it. When you first meet her, she's constantly looking at a picture on her phone, which is shown to be of her friend Eri when she was in the RG. But during day 5, when tasked with helping this businessman make a particular pin popular, you spot a girl who looks just like Shiki in the crowd, which spooks her to the point of running off. After Neku confronts her, she opens up about how she was always jealous of her friend Eri, because to her she was everything she wasn't, and reveals that due to this complex, her entry fee was her own appearance. The girl who looks like her in the crowd is actually Eri. She thought she wanted to be Eri due to her having great ideas for clothing designs, more friends, and good looks, but realizing that even if she looked like her, she's still herself through and through, and realizing that what she values most now is herself, hence her appearance. I love Neku's response to this, giving her words of encouragement while also acknowledging that despite their differences, she's going through her own personal turmoils, which in turn allows the two to grow closer to each other. Shiki eventually gets to overhear Eri talking about her and hears all the things Eri in turn valued about her, saying that yeah, she had good designs, but Shiki gave them life and caught any mistakes she would make, and thought she would make an amazing seamstress. Where's that spark Shiki to give it her all in the Reaper's game so that she could come back to life and to be able to see Eri again? It's good stuff, and when the final day comes and the duo face off against the Game Master for the week, who is this fucking goofball named Yoda Higashizawa, who speaks pretty much entirely in food puns. The two are victorious and make plans to meet up with each other in the RG. But... yeah, the game doesn't end after you clear the first 7 days. One of the tidbits Hanakoma brings up during his exposition was that the Reaper's game operates on a point system, and while talking to the conductor, Megumi Kachanji, out of all the players in the first week, Shiki scored the most points, so only she gets to return back to life. The remaining players getting the choice of playing another round of the Reaper's game, choosing to become a Reaper, or facing erasure themselves. During the first week, Rhyme ended up getting erased while protecting Beat from attacking Noise, and due to this, Beat, who had to take refuge with Hanakoma for the rest of the week because he no longer had a partner, opts to join the Reapers for reasons that will make themselves known later, which leaves Neku alone to participate in a new round of the Reaper's game, with his new entry fee being Shiki's life. Which is both cool and sad from Neku's perspective because now he finally values Shiki, but if he fails, both of them will die. Naturally, Neku is going to need a new partner if he is to survive long, and he ends up running into this guy. I'm just gonna say it, I don't like Joshua, and I feel like that's totally the point. He's written as this snarky, shady kid who never gives straight answers to questions, but has a mouth on him like no other. It's like every response he gives Neku is made to work at his nerves, which could have easily made Neku go back to his old ways, but thanks to his character development from the first week, he at least tries to get along with them to varying success. But just like the first week, the two work on clearing their missions, but Joshua is no Shiki. He's clearly up to something from the start, wanting to go to specific spots in Shibuya, and even wanting to leave their lives in other players' hands, banking on them to clear the missions instead, which technically only one of them has to do it, but Neku is totally against that. Week 2 is when the difficulty starts to ramp up a bit, as Noise becomes stronger and in turn get more XP, and also drop better pins that you can use. I really like how much freedom this game gives for how much you want to engage with encounters. When you scan, you can see all the noise in the area and you can pick how many groups you want to fight back to back in a chain reduction battle. One noise is a group and you can stack a max of 4, but in that case you need to finish all 4 groups to get the XP. Unlike in other RPGs though, leveling up doesn't increase any stats except your HP. Your pins level up on their own through use, and some can even evolve into stronger pins, and these are what determine your damage output. Your stats can also be influenced by eating food at restaurants and then taking a certain amount of time to digest it, as well as buying and wearing clothes from stores. You need a certain amount of bravery to put on items though, but as you work through the game, your bravery will go up and you can wear more stuff. You are fighting together, so it's a good idea to give your partner food and clothes too, and to consider what brands are popular in a given area, as that will boost or even nerf your attacks depending on the trends. But something cool is that you can still push through and wear or use whatever pin or clothing brands you want, and that will cause the trend to catch on and it will become more popular or even the most popular, but you gotta deal with the reduced defense and damage at first if that's the case. That's what I did throughout most of the game, and it served me pretty well. Another part of the challenge of solving the missions is fulfilling what Reapers want to take down the walls between the areas, which can sometimes involve having to change the trends to make a certain brand on top, which can be kinda pace breaking, but usually they just want you to defeat a certain noise or fight a certain number of chain reduction battles. By this point in the game, the special screen nuke attacks you gain access to after doing enough cross combos to max out the sync gauge are really useful and can save your life though. I made sure both my characters were strong to maximize the team attack's damage, and another thing you can do is turn the difficulty itself up. You'll take more damage, but the pins noise drop will be more powerful and you'll get more money to pay for items and even gain materials that you can trade at shops to gain items like Fusion Boost, which will increase your max sync rate percentage, which at a max can cap at like 300% per partner. Joshua's team attack minigame is very easy, so you counting from 1 to 3, but some number cards are reversed to trick you into choosing them. But once you get a rhythm down, it's easy to get your attack boost mad high and erase everything. Joshua himself has a strange aura about him. At the start of the week, Neku tries to scan Joshua twice and is shown a vague vision of a back alley in Utagawa, and him laying there with a player pin. Odd for numerous reasons, most pressing are the implications that he may have unalived our MC, but it's not a subject Neku can just bring up to Joshua because he still needs him to be able to defend against the noise. And as much as I don't like Joshua, this dynamic these two have kept me on the edge of my seat re-experiencing this, as I couldn't remember what came of it. The day you find out Joshua was actually alive the whole time and still playing the Reaper's game caught me off guard, and I love Neku's reaction to that info. This kid is so laid back and snarky, and more than likely is the reason he's even dealing with all this in the first place, and he makes being alive and participating in this game seem like it's nothing. Like he's the same as them when that's not the case. Players like Neku don't want to be here. Some like Rhyme lost their lives trying to survive, and everyone is working hard just for the chance to get their lives back. This is when Neku finally throws the accusation that Joshua killed him, and his response, while snarky, I won't lie, is funny as fuck. Just a simple, so what if that is true? What are you gonna do about it? Because he knows regardless of if that's true or not, Neku still needs him. All this time, Joshua is looking for the composer's base, which the two find is in the Shibuya River, but it's locked. They don't actually get the chance to bypass it as they come into direct confrontation with the game master for the week, Minamimoto. I love this guy so much. He's so cheesy in the best way. Every single line from him is not a food pun like last week's GM, it's a math pun. He calls the characters factors and uses equations to describe the missions he gives out, and of course, every time he's about to attempt to wipe a factor off the playing field, he always says he's crunching them. Peak character. His presence in the second week annoys the Reapers working for him because he doesn't do things by the book. And Izuki hates it. It's so fun to watch. But Neku and Joshua eventually do battle with Minamimoto, which ends in Joshua actually taking the brunt of Minamimoto's final attack, which would have probably killed Neku. And just like that, he wakes up in the third and final week, where he's the only player left and can't form a pact with anyone. That is until Beat shows up, relinquishes his Reaper title, and forms a pact with Neku, betraying the Reapers he joined up with. Throughout the third week, you learn that Beat joined the Reapers to find a way to restore Rhyme, who is revealed to actually be his sister. It's hinted that the two have prior history in the first week, and when she gets raised, it foreshadows the two's backstory. Beat was a hothead, even when he was alive, and regularly got into it with his folks, and would run off, and Rhyme would always be the one to run after him and bring him back. One day though, after Beat runs off and Rhyme pursues him, they both end up getting hit and killed by a car, which was how they got put in the Reaper's game. But Beat's entry fee was his sister's love and memories of him, and Rhyme's entry fee was her dreams. Pretty sad stuff, but it's really heartwarming to see how hard Beat goes for his sister, who now takes the shape of this little noise on Beat's shoulder, who eventually gets taken from him. The third week is a little different from the prior two. There's only one mission, and that's to find and defeat the current game master, Mitsuki Konishi. She and the conductor seem well acquainted. He trusted her to carry out this week and destroy Neku, but skip over a bit, that does not happen. Week 3 is spent looking for Konishi, with a new day starting when you reach different points in your search. It's pretty linear and some antics ensue, like Izuki making use of them kidnapping Rhyme and forcing Neku and Beat to play Reaper Sport 4, which is tag. But Beat is kinda stupid, so he doesn't remember which Reaper Sport has what rules, so the two spend the whole day meandering doing things they think Reaper Sport 4 is. Or rather what Beat thinks Reaper Sport 4 is, which eventually leads to this funny ass interaction where Zuki loses her shit saying it's not tag if they don't chase her, and Neku just tags her when her guard is down, like you're it. She gets pissed and they fight in a pretty fun boss, but then her partner Kurya has his turn fucking with the duo, which leads to a fight with him, and then a fight with both of them, and of course you win, and he gives the pin back fair and square. The natural conclusion, considering Beat is a sync building king. It's hilariously easy to build synergy with him. You just hold A, have him skate all over the enemy, and pelt him with any attack, and just watch the sync rate build. Unfortunately for Beat, the pin the Game Master gave them was a fake, which Kurya apologizes for, so the only thing left to do is to find and take down the GM, which the duo managed to do, and in the process they enter the Reaper's headquarters, and come face to face with the conductor himself, along with Shiki, who somehow is here, which I'm assuming is because she was used as Neku's entry fee, so she never actually went back home. Yeah, after the whole week 2 fiasco and the conductor found out that Joshua was a real player, he just decided to reuse Neku's week 2 entry fee. Regardless, everyone enters into a heated battle where afterwards you find out the composer isn't even here. He departed a while ago and that Megumi was in charge ever since, and in a final bout he attempts to erase everyone. Joshua is then revealed to be alive and combines with Megumi to form the final boss, who absolutely kicked my ass. For the sake of time, I set the difficulty to easy, but even still, his attacks can be kinda difficult to dodge. But after one final attack from Neku, the dragon form is vanquished. And why the fuck is he standing like that? The boss is vanquished, and in the final cutscene it's revealed Megami himself had a timer because he and the composer were in a competition of sorts. This competition was for him to prove that Shibuya could change, as the composer felt that Shibuya had grown dull, and he wanted to erase the city. If Megami failed to do so, he and Shibuya would be erased. Though the composer didn't challenge him directly, he opted to choose someone to represent him to challenge Megami, and that person was Neku. The composer turned out to be fucking Joshua. All that meandering around in the second week was just Joshua's way as the composer to show Neku where the Shibuya River and in turn their HQ was, just to get this conflict to happen. And in the end, after Joshua returns Neku's memories, there's no room for misinterpretations. Neku was misled to think that Joshua shot Minamoto in this flashback instead of him, so when Joshua took his big attack at the end of week 2, he woke up in the conductor's room feeling bad about it. But in the full memory, shot in cold blood. The scene afterwards is my favorite in the game. Neku's character development happens fast. I mean, less than a month has gone by and he's completely different than how he was in the beginning. Coming to the UG, he's made actual friends he can trust and even begin to see Joshua as that. And now he's being told by that same person concretely that not only was his death his fault, he's the cause of all of this and is leaving the fate of Shibuya down to a game of quick draw. Winner becomes the new composer and does what they want, and when the countdown begins with everything on the line, Neku just doesn't have the will to keep this up and breaks down and cries under the pressure, and Joshua shoots him. But regardless, Neku ends up coming back to life along with his new friends, which I interpret as Joshua seeing Shibuya could change if someone as closed off as Neku could do it. So in the end he decided to let them return, but Neku only got this ending due to his personal growth. Week 1 Neku probably wouldn't have thought twice about having to shoot Joshua, especially if he had all his memories back. But Neku, even with his memories intact, just couldn't bring himself to make that decision, which I think is beautiful. Some of this game's themes about living life with no regrets and the game's title, The World Ends With You, being something Hanakoma brought up to mean your own personal world is only as small or large as you make it, and it's up to you to expand it by opening up to new experiences, is something I needed to hear playing this in high school. Hell, it resonates with me now. By playing the Reaper's game, Neku eventually opened up his world, letting in other people and seeing more perspectives instead of shutting them out like he once did. And he's living a fuller life now because of it. Themes like that in games are something a lot of people in their formative years should hear, and it cements this game as an all-time favorite for me. This video definitely focuses on the story more than anything because that was what I felt most like sharing because of how it impacted me. Even if you made it here to the end of the video hearing everything about the main beats of the plot, I still say give this game a playthrough for the dialogue alone, and plus there's a lot of stuff I skimmed over or else we'd be here all day. But alas, it is time for me to hop back into more familiar territory. I hope you all had a fun time hearing me ramble about this 2007 DS game. Please stay safe, and of course, peace.